Hey everyone, it's Kelly. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my December wrap-up. I read 10 books to end 2021, and I found a couple new favorites. I enjoyed most of the books, and it was a better reading month than November. So, to finish off 2021, I read 136 books. The most books I've ever read in a year in my life. So, we're going to talk about the books, and yeah, I'm going to have some trouble getting my reading journal because Luna, she likes to lay on planners. That's her thing. So, can I have this? Please? Please? I don't want you to get mad. See, you're on camera. Say hello. Okay. So can I have this? Thanks. And I didn't mean to hit you in the face. Okay, so the first book I'm going to talk about today is A Boy Called Christmas by Matt Haig. My first Matt Haig book. I picked this up to read out loud to my kids because the Netflix show, or the Netflix movie, was just released, and I ended up giving this a 5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. This is the origin story, one of the many origin stories of Santa Claus. It's about a boy called Nicholas, and he lives in this little village, or he lives out in the woods in this tiny little village in Norway. I think it's Norway. Yeah. And his father is a woodcutter, and his mom is recently deceased by a bear. She jumped in a well. And so one day, this group of men come with a message from the king wanting to get something magical, bring a creature, or bring some proof of this village far up north. And so they ended up taking Nicholas's dad along with them, and his aunt, what's his aunt called? Carlotta. His aunt Carlotta comes to watch over him, and she is a bitch. Okay, so she makes him sleep outside because it's only one room house that he lives in, and so eventually his dad doesn't come back on the time that he said he was going to be back, and Aunt Carlotta is just getting nastier and nastier. It's getting colder, and there's no food, and so Nicholas, he just decides to go find his father. And so on his way there, he meets a deer. Love. And it's Blitzen. And so this is just a cute little Christmas story. And I'm not one to read Christmas books. I am a Scrooge. This helped me get into the Christmas spirit a little bit more this year. And the only thing that the movie did different that I did not like was that Blitzen didn't pee on Aunt Carlotta. That's a spoiler, I'm sorry, but it's funny. Next year, I am definitely going to be picking up the little novellas. I think one is about the mouse, Mika. And then the second book is A Girl Who Saved Christmas. And the girl is in the epilogue at the end of that one, when Santa's all grown up. And so, the next book I read for the buzzword, I don't remember what the buzzword is, but I think it was like nature elements or something. And it is Windfall by Jennifer E. Smith. This is about this girl. Her and her friend are at this convenience store, and she's buying a lottery ticket for her other best friend's 18th birthday party, or 18th birthday. And so the book opens off with her like picking her numbers, and she picks like the most random numbers, but all of these numbers have like meaning to her. And then she ends up like writing all her feelings down on the card and sticking the lottery ticket inside. And so when they get to the guy's house, ends up he's throwing a party, and they find it really out of character, even for him. And she ends up giving him the card, and he's like super excited about the lottery ticket. This book didn't go how I expected it to go. I expected her to ask for like half of the money and him to be like, no, you're the one who bought me the ticket. Why should you get any money? But in fact, it was the complete opposite. And that, I didn't have any feelings about it, but I was like genuinely surprised, because that's usually how it goes. But yeah, this was a fast-paced, slow burn. Like, I couldn't stop like turning the page, but the slow burn, the story just dragged. Nothing happened. It would be like, okay, one day he goes to school, and then he's like out the next few days because he's doing interviews and buying all this stuff. And then, oh, feelings, love triangle, back to school, skipping school, interviews, and yeah. And it was also very stereotypical. Like, when somebody wins a big ass sum of money, you're going to have people coming out of the woodwork asking for handouts. And so that's what happens with some of his family members, and obviously nobody wants to deal with that. I mean, if you are on bad terms with somebody and you win some money, and then that person comes back into your life apologizing, it's not, what's it called? It's not true. It's not genuine. It's a crap. It's crap. They're going to want some money. And it was just, you knew what was going to happen. So, I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 just for the fast pace. I really enjoyed it. It's a contemporary. I always give like contemporaries either 3 or 4 stars. I hardly ever give a contemporary 5 stars unless I really, really enjoy it and it's about a topic that's close, or it has topics that are relative to me, related to me. You want to talk to the people? Hi. Don't you be huffing. Talk to the people. Oh, is it you? Yeah. Oh, why you gotta huff? Hi. Hello. You're such a good girl. Okay. So, the next book that I read, it was a e-copy from NetGalley, and that is The Lighthouse by Christopher Parker. This, it's about a girl and a guy. It's a romance, but, it's a small town. So, and it's not about a lottery. It's about, like, paranormal, other side. Okay, so, we meet this girl, I don't even know what her name is. Amy? I think her name's Amy. Something with an A. This is about a girl named Amy. She just lost her mother due to a drunk driver. And so her father, he's a police officer, and he works with his brother. So his brother has to like close up this case of a missing persons in this little town called Seabrook. So Officer Tucker ends up going to Seabrook, and he takes his daughter along just to get her out of the house and to bond with her because they're not on the best of terms. And so they get to this little tiny town, and she notices the lighthouse because it's dilapidated and ruined and like closed off, condemned. And so they go into their hotel room, and the Officer Tucker, he goes down to the bar and gets a drink. She ends up taking some of her dad's sleeping pills, which is like a handful, not just because she wants to sleep. She takes a handful. She doesn't measure. She doesn't look at the dosage. She takes her dad's prescription medication, which is shit on the dad's part because he should have like hid those better. Okay, so she takes a handful and she gets into a bathtub. And then this guy, his name is Ryan. Yes, Ryan. Yes. And he owns a local ranch. He gives like horse tours and horseback riding lessons and horse rides. And he is trying to make money because his dad had a stroke a couple years ago, and he is not on the best of terms with the bank. He had just realized that the bank is like foreclosing the house because Ryan didn't pay back his loans. And he took out so many loans on the house and on the horses. And so he's trying to do everything he can to get a little bit more business to pay off a bill. And so he sees water in the hallway, and he goes into the room which was open. And he basically saves Amy from drowning. She freaks the fuck out. She wakes up. And then her dad hasn't come back to the room yet, which is weird. And yeah. So the next day, her dad still hasn't come back. And she decides, well, I'm going to go apologize to the guy who I screamed at, who basically saved my life. And they end up forming a connection. They become friends. And then Amy starts seeing weird things with the lighthouse. And then the whole town starts freaking out because this lighthouse doesn't have any stairs, and it doesn't have a light bulb. It doesn't have anything at the top. Nobody can get up to the top of the lighthouse. It reminded me of WandaVision with the snow globe effect. So, if you haven't watched WandaVision, it's basically like over and over and over again. Basic like the Halloween episode when Vision was walking and he just saw people going up, like snow globe effect, and doing the same thing over and over, talking about the same thing over and over. And I read Magonia by Maria Dahvana Headley, and I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. It reminded me, like before I picked it up, it reminded me of a book series that I started reading years ago, called The Crescent Stone. It was the Sunlit Land series by Matt Mikalatos, and I'm going to be talking about that series again later in the video. But this book is about a girl who has a lung breathing issue, and it's about like a mythological, like, sky pirates. So this girl, I forget her name because I don't have the book with me. Do I? No. So she can't breathe. She has trouble breathing. And then one day she has to go get an MRI, and they find a feather in her lung. And her parents are like, how the hell do you have a feather in your lung? We don't give you pillows with feathers. And so they are like confused. And her best friend, Jason, I remember his name, he's just very knowledgeable. He's a fact checker. And before she gets her MRI, she faints in school. And before she faints, she goes, pirate ship, sky. And she faints. And obviously, when she says pirate ship in sky, her best friend starts fact checking and seeing, like, looking up pirate ship sky to get a sense of, is she the only one that sees pirate ships in the sky and the mythology? And he tells her, oh, other people have seen pirate ships in the sky too, and you're hallucinating. And Magonia is real. It's a place in the sky. And she ends up being taken by a bunch of birds. It reminded me of Alfred Hitchcock's birds. So, but yeah, it was very sad. I'm going to be picking up the sequel this year because I need to read what happens in her new skin. I'm trying not to spoil any of this, and I'm trying to remember, but obviously that's not very good because my reviews suck. Okay, so the next book is Voyage of the Frostheart by Jamie Littler, and this came in my daughter's December 2019, 2020. Oh, great, junior box. I don't remember when. So this is like, it's a perfect winter read. So this is set in a very cold and isolated place. Kind of, it makes me think Antarctica, and it's not Antarctica. But we're set in this village, and this little boy right here, his name is Ash. And Ash has been abandoned by his parents. His parents were pathfinders, and they went out to look for resources and other villages to trade with so they could continue living. And so his parents have been gone for years, and so he is going from guardian to guardian because he is a song weaver, and song weavers are forbidden. They're looked down upon. They're like taboo, and song weavers are prejudiced against because they believe, or people believe, that song weavers can be controlled by the Leviathans, which are these monsters that roam outside village walls and attack pathfinders. And so he gets a new guardian who is a snow yeti who was exiled from his clan and came to Ash's village. And now Ash is under the guardianship of the snow yeti. His name is Tobu. Yeah. And Tobu is like, don't sing, don't sing, don't sing. And so one day, Ash has been exiled, and he's getting ready to leave, and this Pathfinder crew that he saved, which caused his exile, they take him aboard, and he leaves, and this guy right here, he is just trying to get Ash to sing, to come into his craft. I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I am going to be picking up the sequel because I'm interested, because the title intrigues me. Escape from Aurora. Why? And but I did have trouble with Ash. He was a little asshole at times, and obviously you can see that Shard, he's evil. Black and red. Those are my favorite colors. But I'm not evil. So, I mean, but you can just tell. And this cover also reminds me of Avatar. Like, Ash can be the little, he can be Aang. Luna could be Katara. Yeah. Shard is definitely Prince Zuko. And then Tobu's like, Sokka. So, or, Appa. But he doesn't go yip yip. You don't have to go yip yip to get Toby to do anything. Just piss him off. Okay, so, yes, highly recommend this. It's a great little middle grade. I know that Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin really likes it. And, yeah. Pick it up. It's a great little winter read, so it's perfect and on those cold, snowy days, because they're in a cold, isolated, snowy, icy place. I finally picked up The Golem and the Jinni by Helen Wecker, and 5 out of 5 stars. I don't know if it's going to be on my favorites list of 2021. I still need to make my list. I still need to finalize it, but maybe. So, this is the first in a duology, trilogy. I don't know how many books there is going to be. The second book just came out. And so, this is about a golem, which is a clay woman, and a genie. You know what a genie is. And so, one day, this man, he is going to be moving to New York from this country in Europe. And he just decides he wants a golem to his specifications. He wants his own maid woman. And so he goes to this well-known guy who doesn't ask any questions, just gives him money, makes the golem to the dude's specifications. Because he thinks that basically the guy's going to take the golem as a wife. And he wants her obedient, but curious. And all of these, like, traits. And so, the guy who makes the golem gives him specific instructions not to bring her to life until they get off the boat. Guy doesn't do that. So the guy brings her to life and ends up dropping dead from a busted appendix, which terrified me. And every stomach issue I had since reading this, I'm like paranoid now. So, and then we read, that's the first chapter. Second chapter introduces the Jinni. So, one day in Little Syria, this woman brings the tinsmith a old copper flask that's dented, and she wants him to, like, repair it. And so while he's rubbing it, the genie pops out, and the genie automatically gets angry and tries to, like, ensue violence on the tinsmith. And come to find out that the genie has been in this flask for over 1,000 years, and that the wizard who put him in this flask is long gone. And so his shackle, his little iron manacle, is not be able, it can't come off to release him from his human form. And so the genie has to work and learn how to live as a human. And yeah, so every character that the golem and the genie meet, we get their story, and it's woven beautifully. I absolutely loved it. The rabbi who saves the golem from an angry mob. The golem can feel every emotion, can hear everybody's thoughts. And so she sees this little boy hungry and starving, and she sees this big fat guy who just bought a sandwich eating, and she just yanks the sandwich out of the guy's hand and gives it to the little boy, and he runs off. And the mob is like, why did you steal from him? You're going to have to pay for that. And why would you give it to a little street rat like that little boy? He doesn't deserve it. And yeah. So the rabbi saves him or her. And then the genie, he ends up making relations with are you snoring? Or are you just huffing to me to shut up? Oh, okay. I'll hurry up. I got a couple more books. So yeah, the genie ends up having relations with this wealthy New York daughter, and she ends up getting sick. So, yeah, I'm not gonna go into much more detail because I don't want to spoil it. But this was amazing, and the blue sprayed edges. Oh, love it. I already have the sequel from the library, so I'm going to be reading it this month. Who knew that I could start and finish a series in 2 months? Not me, because I don't do it. I'm going to have to buy my own copies of this. And I am on a permanent book buying ban this year, because I have too many fucking books. I read a classic. Animal Farm by George Orwell. I did not have to read this in high school. I read 1984. I read half of it, and then I had a baby. So, thanks, Samantha. I didn't really like it. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5. I knew what it was about before I started reading it. Like, it's basically a Russian Revolution told in animals, like a satire. And, yeah, it took me a day to read this. I started it on the day before my birthday and finished it on my birthday. This is basically about farm animals overthrowing their human masters. Basically, a boar starts the whole thing. He starts the revolution, and the pigs take over and become like the leaders. And they call each other comrades. So it's basically Russian Revolution, because in Russia they call each other comrades. And then they make up these commandments, and along the way, the commandments start getting reworded to fit the pigs. Like when the pigs are in the house, it says no one shall sleep in the house unless you are sick. Something like that. And all of the commandments are reworded to fit the pigs and what they are doing and how they're breaking the rules to fit them. And how they took the puppies and made them evil and trained them badly. The thing that broke me was Snowball, when the pig was being like scapegoated for all the bad things that were happening with the windmill and the feed. Everything was getting blamed on Snowball, and how all of the farm animals ended up like confessing to something that they probably didn't do just to die because they didn't want to work hard anymore. It was just heartbreaking. And so, I got a little story. After I read this, me and my family went to the zoo. And my zoo has a new farm area. They expanded the farm area, and they now have pigs. Yeah. My kids wanted to see the pigs. I stood at the gate, and all these little pigs were just in the mud. And I was like, I got my eye on you, you little bastards. And so I was giving the pigs the evil eye. The cutest little piglets, no. Not cute. I came home that day and ate a bacon sandwich. Just to assert my dominance. But, yeah. So, I'm going to pick up 1984 to see what else I can make funny, make humorous, you know? But, yeah. Okay, the next book is Our Last Christmas Together by Matt Mikalatos. This is the novella between the Crescent Stone and the Heartwood Crown in the Sunlit Lands series. This is about a girl who can't breathe well. It's set before the second book, so it's not the Revolution yet, but or the Uprising. So Madeline and Jason, is that his name? Yeah, they're still in the Sunlit Lands, and they get together with all of the other humans in this world, the Sunlit Lands, and they are going to celebrate Christmas. Time goes differently in the Sunlit Lands, and they just want to celebrate Christmas because they are missing their homes, they're missing their families, and so they're getting ready. Madeline is getting all the food prepared with Sabula, I think that's her name. And then Jason is on the verge of being killed by some Eleanor because he wants to chop down a tree in a magical forest. So that doesn't happen. And yeah, so while during the Christmas celebrations, there's 3 people chosen to tell their own little Christmas story. So Jason tells a story that he was told by his parents. Sabula tells a story of that her family did in Syria, because they didn't celebrate Christmas, but they had their own little traditions around that time of year. And then Madeline tells a story involving her grandfather and their last Christmas with him. And that made me bawl my eyes out. Little 46-page novella, got a 5 out of 5 stars. And it made me miss my grandpa even more. It's been 17 years since he's died from lung cancer, and I think about him every day. The land that my house is on, he gave to me when I was 10 years old. So, yeah. Every day I'm reminded of my grandpa, and he died January 15th, 2005. So, it's about to be 17 years. I am excited to finally pick up the third book. I think it just came out this year, called The Sun King something. I'm excited. So, yes. If you have not picked up this series, Crescent Stone, pick it up. Matt Mikalatos. Really great. I have another Christmas book that I read out loud to my kids, and that is The Christmasaurus by Tom Fletcher. I ended up having to buy my own copy because I requested this from my library, and apparently everybody wants to read it, and I didn't read it in time. So this is about a little boy named William Trundle. He really, really, really loves dinosaurs, and so he asked for a dinosaur for Christmas. And he lives with his dad, who is obsessed with Christmas. Like, December 1st, you're opening the advent calendar, you're listening to Christmas songs, you're wearing the Christmas sweaters. And then after Christmas, you're like Xing out the days until Christmas comes back around, till December 1st hits. So this little boy, he's experienced grief, and he's in a wheelchair because he was in a car accident with his mom. Now that I think about it, I've read a shit ton of books, like 3-4 books this month, that have had moms die in car accidents. The fuck? I'm not getting in a car this month. Okay, so, that's his story. Now, the elves up at the North Pole, they mine for toys, for toy beans. And while these elves are mining, one day, they come across a dinosaur egg. And it tells, like, the beginning of the book tells how the dinosaur egg froze and how Datadoclus and the Mamasaurus and Dablodocus, I love it, how they were killed by the meteorites, and how the egg fell into the ocean and froze. And I love that part. And how the elves don't know what kind of dinosaur he is because he's not an encyclopedia, so they name it the Christmasaurus. And eventually it's like a Buddy the Elf. You don't fit in. But he really loves watching the reindeer fly. He really wants to fly. I mean, obsessed. And then William, he sends his letter to Santa, and William gets a little touched by the letter, and so he makes William's toy special made, based off of the Christmasaurus. And then the Christmasaurus ends up falling in love with the stuffed dinosaur, Stuffy, and it's just a little great. The one thing that I did not like about this book was the violent bullying. That shit was not good. Yeah. Little Brenda Payne was a little bitch. So, yes. I don't remember who I got this recommendation from. I think I saw it on a Books with Chloe video a couple months ago. Or one of her old videos, or I was watching a Christmas recommendation middle grade, or it was a middle grade Christmas email, and this was on it. I'm not sure, but I know that there's a sequel called The Christmasaurus and the Wind Witch. Maybe that was, I don't know, but highly recommend. And then I'm giving this a 4. Christmasaurus is now one of my favorite dinosaurs. I wish there was a Christmasaurus because I want to see a Christmasaurus with snowflakes on its back. And the final book that I read in December, in 2021, took me way longer than I wanted it to. I read Fire and Blood by George R. R. Martin. This is basically a history textbook. 300 years of Targaryen history. It's all about the Targaryens and how Aegon married his 2 sisters and had 2 queens and basically conquered all of Westeros to bring them together in the 7 kingdoms instead of not the Dornish. That's very prevalent, not Dorne. And how his bloodline was pure, blood of the dragon is pure, and the Baratheons are mentioned, the Starks, the Lannisters, the Tyrells, the Aarons. What else? Not the Freys. But, yeah, so this is set in the A Song of Ice and Fire Game of Thrones world. If you know anything about Game of Thrones, it's about a bunch of people fighting for a throne made of swords. And it goes into detail how when Aegon conquered all of these lands and the lords swore lealty or swore an oath to Aegon and gave up their swords. That's how the Iron Throne was made. And yeah, it's a lot of fucking, a lot of underage marriage, a 6-year-old being married to a 13-year-old, and them not being able to consummate the marriage until she flowers. And dragons. Shit ton of dragons. The one thing I had a problem with was that, did they have to use the same name over and over and over again? That was fucking, no. It was confusing. But I really liked this. Probably better than, I had a more enjoyable time reading this than A Song of Ice and Fire. Those books. I listened to this on audiobook. Same as Game of Thrones, Clash of Kings, Storm of Swords, those ones. But the reason I like this one better, because I was reading along with it, it had illustrations. And the illustrations were very welcome during the long-winded battles and family trees of who was fucking who was marrying who, the rape and the pillaging, and gutting, seeing innards, and what's it called? De-limbing people. What's it called? Chopping off their heads. Going to the wall, riding a dragon. So, yes. I know there's a second book coming out in this, but I'm still waiting on The Winds of Winter. And this is the source material for the new HBO show, House of the Dragon. Cannot wait. And while I was reading this, I was looking at pictures of who was who, and then it started being a whole lot more enjoyable because I can picture the actors' faces with who they were playing, who the characters were, and yes, there was times where I got confused, but hey, I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 5 out of 5. Yeah. I just want more of the Targaryens. They were at my favorite house, Starks. Obviously, my favorite house. Winter's coming. The Direwolves. But the Targaryens are my second now above the Lannisters. Do I like the Lannisters? I only like Tyrion. He drinks and knows things. So that is it for my December wrap-up. I've been talking for close to 45 an hour. My throat hurts. So if you enjoyed this video, if you read any of these books, let me know down in the comments. Did you have the same opinions that I did? Are you excited about House of the Dragon coming to HBO Max? I still need to get my own subscription. Can I fork out $14.99 a month? Yes, I can. So, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in my next video.